Recently, Chuck Todd gave an analysis after the Eau Claire uh, speech that Kamala gave, along with Tim Walz. He gave an assessment that was somewhat correct, but again, I fail to understand why it is that these mainstream media personalities think they need to give Donald Trump more kudos than they do. Uh, I find it amazing. First of all, I want you to listen to Chuck Todd's analysis of where the race is.
Chuck, Harris clearly has the wind in her sails. You see it in the polling. We see it in the fundraising. You see the enthusiasm at the rallies. But the basic question, I think, is she winning right now or is Trump losing?
Well, I think what she's done is she got the Democratic coalition back together. And when you start to see there's a new poll out that just came over from Marquette University in Wisconsin that sort of helps reinforce what I think we've been seeing, which is Democratic enthusiasm levels about this election now match Republican enthusiasm levels. But here's what hasn't happened. It's not as if Republicans are demoralized about this election, right? When we see, the reason we saw Trump building a lead and why there was such fear among Democrats that Biden was going to lead them into a 1980-like result, a la Jimmy Carter, was because Democratic enthusiasm about the ticket was in the toilet. And Republicans were much more enthusiastic than Democrats about the election, about voting, all these little measurements that do matter when it comes to gauging turnout. So she's caught up. And I think the question now is, it's sort of like this is still, in theory, Trump's election to lose if you look at sort of the fundamentals, right? Perception of the economy being really the number one indicator. And there's all these different ways where you could say, OK, and the fact that a majority of the country believes we need to go in a different direction. And yet he's handled this moment terribly. He clearly is rattled by this. I've talked to people close to him who indicate, he's had such a one-track mind on avenging his defeat from Biden that it's bothered him that he's suddenly no longer running against Biden. We saw it. And, it's sort of, I wrote that. And then that Truth Social post came out last night after I wrote it. It's like, my gosh, it's exactly what these folks were telling me. He can't give up the ghost of Biden right now. And it's because he can't accept that somebody defeated him because they had the opposite personality. And in order to accept the Biden defeat, he has to accept the fact that he was rejected, and he's still struggling with that. And until they get focused here, I think the entire Republican Party's got a problem if the leader of their ticket can't seem to focus on the November election and the opponent he actually has.
And you do see a discipline, right, on the Democratic side. And look, much of the campaign team is still in place from Joe Biden, but this is a campaign that had to do a big shift very quickly. It's only been a couple of weeks, right?
Chris, think about it in our own jobs, right? When you have a quick deadline, and you have to scramble to do something, there's sort of a purpose, and everybody is almost sometimes running smoother, and people are making quick decisions, and there's no hemming and hawing and hand-wringing, which sometimes can bog the decision-making process down. I think certainly the vice president is benefiting from this short timeline. They almost have to be disciplined, or they wouldn't be able to make sure they got their ticket in place to make sure they make all the ballots, right? So it's the short timeline is forcing discipline, and the more disciplined campaigns usually win. Trump has been an unusual person in that he's been undisciplined and still been able to pull off victories in the past. But I think that's a unique aspect to him that the rest of history would show you that doesn't work that way.
Now, here's a problem. I want to start with how he ended. He ended with the most disciplined campaigns normally win. I think what he really means is what he should mean is that the most competent campaigns with the most competent person should win. Then the other thing that he said at the end to close it out is that somehow Trump is some different animal where He doesn't have to follow the rules of being competent. He doesn't have to follow the rules about being smart, etc. As if Donald Trump ever won an election. At some point in time, we need these journalists to come out there and say, if not for an aberration in the Constitution that favors landowners, meaning big territories that are red, Donald Trump does not have the popular support of the people. And as such, the only reason he became president is because of that electoral college that we have that is a very undemocratic feature within our elections. In other words, going out there and giving the president some sort of kudos for winning something that he didn't really win isn't the answer. Yes, he was a president. Yes, he was a legitimate president. Yes, he was a constitutional president. But let's not make it that he did something that superseded what let's say back then Hillary Clinton did, what Biden did, what any other president did at all. Because again, Donald Trump can only win an election based on democratic interference, both from the Constitution, from the judges, etc. It was the same thing with Bush back in 2000. He could only win an election if he was appointed by the Supreme Court. Statement of fact. Now, yes, because of some interesting features, he slightly got the popular vote in 2004. There's a whole lot of things, swift boating, etc., that was causal. But again, remember, Republicans don't win popular vote because their policies are not popular. Let's make that clear. Republicans have only won the popular vote once. In fact, I don't think they've won it once in this century. I repeat, Republicans have only won the popular vote once in this century. And we can go back to how many elections have passed that they simply could not win the popular vote. Donald Trump was elected with 3 million votes short. Bush 1 was elected with close to 500,000 or 1 million votes short. And all the other presidents were Democratic. It is time that we are honest. The country is not a 50-50 country. It only seems 50-50 because of an electoral college and gerrymandering. And if we as progressives go out there and do the necessary work, we can make the presidency and the Congress more reflective of the actual population as a representative democracy. But it takes work, and it takes reinflating the worth people have in their ability to control their government.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.